If you're over 60, this is something you need to hear. Stroke rarely announces itself. One moment you're getting ready for your day, and the next you can't speak clearly, lift your arm, or keep your balance. As a neurologist, I've watched too many older adults experience these life-altering moments, not because of poor lifestyle choices or sudden injuries, but because of something they trusted to help them: vitamins. Every single day, millions of seniors take supplements hoping to support their heart, boost their memory, or fight fatigue. But here's what's rarely discussed. Certain vitamins, when taken in high doses or at the wrong time, can quietly increase your risk of stroke. They can thin your blood too much, spike your pressure during sleep, or even disrupt your nervous system without warning. You may believe you're doing something good for your brain, but the reality is, some of these habits may be silently making things worse. In this video, I'll walk you through 5 vitamins that can quietly raise your stroke risk and show you what to take instead to protect your brain, your memory, and your independence for years to come. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Vitamin E, the heart-healthy supplement that can trigger a brain hemorrhage. Most older adults take vitamin E with the best of intentions. They've been told it supports the heart, boosts immunity, even protects the skin and brain. And while that's not entirely wrong, what most people over 65 don't realize is that vitamin E, especially in high doses, can quietly become one of the most dangerous supplements they take, particularly if they're on blood thinners or managing high blood pressure. I think back to one of my patients, Mr. Harold Whitman, 79, a retired school principal from Illinois, a careful, thoughtful man. He took his medications exactly as prescribed, including Eliquis for atrial fibrillation. Everything had been stable for months, but then he began taking a natural vitamin E supplement he picked up at a health food store, 800 IU, daily because he read it might help with memory and circulation. He didn't mention it to anyone, not thinking it was a big deal. 3 weeks later, he collapsed in his living room. His wife found him disoriented, slurring his words, unable to stand. In the hospital, the scans confirmed a hemorrhagic strokeia, bleed deep in his brain. No trauma, no major spike in blood pressure, no warning. The culprit was the combination of his prescribed blood thinner and the added vitamin E. You see, vitamin E acts as a natural anticoagulant. On its own, it might not cause problems, but when layered on top of prescription medications like warfarin, Plavix, or Eliquis, it can thin the blood far too much. And in aging bodies, where vessels are already more fragile, the risk of a spontaneous brain bleed rises sharply. The scariest part? Many over-the-counter supplements contain 400, 800, even 1,000 IU of vitamin E doses, far beyond what seniors actually need. The recommended amount for older adults? Just 15 milligrams, or about 22 IU. That means even one capsule a day could push you into dangerous territory if you're already on medication. Mr. Whitman survived, but life changed. He now needs help with basic tasks. He can't drive. His speech is slower, his balance more fragile. I'll never forget what he said to me later, tears in his eyes. I thought I was doing the right thing. No one told me I could bleed from trying to stay healthy. This is the hard truth. Just because something is sold over the counter doesn't mean it's safe. Not for everyone. Not at every age. And especially not when you're already taking medications that affect how your blood moves, clots, and protects your brain. If you're over 65 and taking a blood thinner of any kind, you must speak with your doctor before adding vitamin E or any supplement for that matter. These choices are not small. They can change your life in a single night. And if this has surprised you, you're not alone. But here's where things get even more concerning. There's another vitamin known that nearly every senior takes, often without testing, that may silently harden your arteries and increase your risk of stroke without you ever feeling it. Let's talk about vitamin D. 2. Vitamin D, the sunshine pill that could turn deadly overnight. Most people over 60 have heard the message loud and clear: vitamin D is good for your bones, your immune system, and even your mood. And that's true, in the right amount and at the right time. But here's the part almost no one talks about. When taken in excess, especially late in the day, vitamin D can quietly push your body into dangerous territory, raising your risk of stroke, not over years, but overnight. I once treated Mr. Samuel Dwyer, a 74-year-old retired Navy mechanic from North Carolina. He lived with discipline, kept a clean routine, and took his health seriously. Every morning, like clockwork, he lined up his supplements, among them a 10,000 IU capsule of vitamin D. He told me proudly, "I want to stay strong, I don't want brittle bones." But one morning his wife found him slumped on the edge of the bed, confused and struggling to speak. He hadn't fallen. He didn't have a history of high blood pressure or heart disease. But the scans told us everything. A mild but dangerous stroke had occurred during the night. When we ran his labs, the real issue surfaced. His calcium levels were abnormally high. His arteries were rigid. Blood flow to his brain had been constricted. The root of the problem was vitamin D overload, slowly pushing calcium into his bloodstream, overwhelming his system. You see, vitamin D helps your body absorb calcium. That's part of what makes it essential. But when you take too much, especially without a deficiency or without proper supervision, your body doesn't just send that calcium to your bones. Instead, it begins to deposit it in places it shouldn't. Your arteries, your kidneys, and especially the delicate vessels feeding your brain. Now imagine taking that dose late in the day. Your body is dehydrated from sleep. Blood pressure is fluctuating. Your vessels are already more fragile with age. It's the perfect setup for a clot to form, or a vessel to rupture, and you won't feel it happening. There's no pain, no warning, just silence, until something changes and your independence is gone in a flash. The most alarming part is how many over-the-counter supplements offer doses 5 or even 10 times higher than what's actually needed. Many older adults take 5,000 to 10,000 IU daily because they think more is better. But research shows even 2,000 IU can be excessive if your vitamin D levels aren't low to begin with. Mr. Dwyer survived, but he now walks with a cane and his speech has slowed. He told me later, "I just wanted to be proactive. I didn't know I was harming myself by trying to do the right thing." So let this be your reminder. Never guess with vitamins. Always test first. If you're taking vitamin D, especially if you're also using calcium or heart medication, talk to your doctor. Keep your dosage within safe limits. And take it in the morning, never before bed. And now, just when you thought you had one thing figured out, there's another vitamin often taken for energy or nerve support that may quietly damage your brain and coordination without you realizing it. It's found in multivitamins, energy pills, and even some fortified foods. Let's talk about vitamin B6. 3. Vitamin B6, the nerve helper that can slowly rob you of balance and brain control. If you're over 60, you've likely been told that vitamin B6 is good for your nerves, energy, and brain. It's found in countless senior-focused supplements, often marketed as support for memory and circulation. But what most people don't hear, what too few doctors talk about, is that in older adults, too much B6 can quietly damage the very systems it claims to protect. I'll never forget one of my patients, Mr. Harold Franklin, a 76-year-old retired trucker from rural Nebraska. He was a proud man, still tending his garden and keeping up with his grandchildren when he started feeling strange. Sensations tingling in his hands, numbness in his feet, and a growing unsteadiness on stairs. At first, he chalked it up to age. But then came the falls. First in the garage, then again in the shower. The third time, he hit his head on the tile floor and ended up in the emergency room. When we looked through his medications and supplements, one detail stood out. He'd been taking a nerve support vitamin every morning, advertised as complete brain and nerve care. It contained 100 milligrams of B6 per tabletoe, over 6 times the upper safe limit for seniors. And he'd been taking 2 of them daily for nearly a year. That's when we realized what was really going on. Mr. Franklin wasn't just getting older, he was experiencing vitamin B6 toxicity. Unlike many vitamins that simply pass through your body, B6 can accumulate in the nervous system. Over time, it starts stripping the insulation that protects your nerves, like peeling the coating off electrical wires. The results are slow but devastating. Numbness, weakness, tremors, balance problems, and in many cases, irreversible nerve damage. For seniors, this kind of damage doesn't just mean discomfort. It means the difference between walking confidently and living in fear of the next fall. Mr. Franklin was lucky we caught it when we did. We stopped the supplement immediately, and with time, his symptoms improved, but not completely. He now walks with a cane and avoids driving alone. I thought I was protecting my brain, he told me. I didn't know I was causing it harm. Here's what every older adult needs to understand. The safe daily intake of B6 for someone over 60 is usually between 2 and 10 milligrams. Anything beyond that, especially over long periods, can be dangerous. And yet, so many over-the-counter vitamins sold today contain 50, 100, or even 200 milligrams per serving doses that may seem helpful on the label, but quietly lead to nerve damage in real life. And the worst part? The early signs don't feel like danger. They feel like getting older, a little more tired, a little clumsier, a little numb. But if ignored, these symptoms can lead to something much more serious: broken bones, hospital stays, even the loss of your independence. Still think every vitamin on the shelf is harmless? Then you need to hear what happens when another healthy nutrientone often praised for protecting your eyes starts increasing the pressure inside your skull. Let's talk about vitamin A. 4. Vitamin A, the vision booster that can secretly build pressure inside your brain. Vitamin A has long held a reputation for being gentle and essential, touted for its support of vision, skin health, and immune function. But what many older adults aren't told is that, in the wrong amounts or taken for too long, this familiar vitamin can quietly become a threat. It doesn't announce itself with sharp pain or dramatic symptoms at first. It builds slowly, silent, until the brain is under pressure. One of my patients, Miss Darlene Rivers, 79, a retired music instructor from Northern California, had always taken great pride in her health. She ate well, stayed active, and never missed her daily supplements. But over the course of a few weeks, she began noticing something off. Headaches that wouldn't ease, blurred vision that made her stop reading sheet music, and a persistent lightheadedness that left her feeling unsteady on her feet. Her family thought perhaps it was age catching up, maybe even early signs of dementia. But then came a sudden spell of slurred speech and balance loss that sent her to the emergency room. Everyone feared a stroke. The scan showed no clot, no bleeding, but something else entirely. Elevated pressure inside her skull. Her spinal fluid wasn't draining properly, and the tiny veins around her brainstem were under strain. The condition mimicked a tumor or stroke, but the cause wasn't cancer, trauma, or even blood pressure. It was her vitamin A supplement. For years, Miss Rivers had been taking a vision and skin health formula OWN that included 10,000 IU of vitamin A daily. On top of that, her multivitamin already had 2,500 IU. She had no idea she was far exceeding the upper safety threshold, especially for someone in her age group. No one had ever warned her. No one had asked. What she experienced is known as pseudotumor cerebri, false brain tumor, a condition where vitamin A buildup increases fluid pressure inside the skull. And unlike water-soluble vitamins, vitamin A is fat-soluble. That means it stores in your liver, your fat tissue, and eventually starts affecting your brain. For seniors, the risk is even higher. Liver function slows with age, meaning your body can't process out the excess as easily. And if you're already taking a multivitamin, then add a vision support capsule on top. The total daily dose often doubles or worse. Miss Rivers didn't need surgery, but the path to recovery has been slow. She now requires regular visits to a neurologist, eye pressure monitoring, and uses a cane when walking outdoors. The worst part? She had no idea she was overdoing it. I thought I was protecting my vision, she told me, but I nearly lost my balance, my independence, and maybe more. Oh, there's 6. Here's what every older adult should remember. For people over 60, the safe upper limit of vitamin A, especially in its active retinol formis, around 2,500 to 3,000 IU daily, unless specifically directed by a doctor. Going above that regularly, even for something that sounds harmless like eye health, is not only unnecessary, it's dangerous. And if that leaves you uneasy, you're not alone. But the next vitamin on our list may surprise you even more. Found in some heart-healthy cereals and supplements, niacin can trigger dangerous blood pressure spikes and spasms in the brain if used the wrong way. Let's look at how this popular nutrient may be quietly working against your brain's safety. 5. Niacin, the cholesterol vitamin that can quietly spike your blood pressure and strain your brain. Niacin, also known as vitamin B3, is often praised for its ability to support cholesterol levels and heart health. You see it on store shelves, in heart-friendly labels, tucked into multivitamins, even sprinkled into fortified cereals. It sounds like a simple, helpful addition to your routine. But for older adults, especially those with high blood pressure or circulation issues, high-dose niacin can quietly create the perfect storm inside the brain. I remember one of my patients clearly, Mr. Richard Hayes, age 82, a retired mail carrier from Jacksonville, Florida. He was always punctual, always moving. But lately, he had been experiencing strange symptoms in the morning, a warm, flushing sensation across his cheeks, a pounding sensation in his chest, and sudden waves of dizziness that made it hard to walk without gripping the counter. His wife assumed it was nerves. His son wondered if it was his medication. But the truth was buried in the fine print of a supplement bottle. Richard had been taking a cholesterol support capsule advertised as natural, effective, and safe. But the back label told a different story. 1,000 milligrams of niacin per capsule, taken twice a day. That's over 60 times more than what most seniors need. What happened next inside his body wasn't just a side effect. It was a dangerous cycle. Niacin causes the blood vessels to expand suddenly, which explains the facial flushing and warm rush. But then, just as quickly, those vessels constricted in someone over 60 with less elastic arteries and a sensitive heart. That rebound effect puts enormous strain on the cardiovascular system. The heart races to compensate. Blood pressure swings. Circulation to the brain becomes unstable. And it caught up with Richard one morning. He was making tea when his words slurred mid-sentence. His hand dropped the mug. A transient ischemic attack, a mini-stroke hit, and passed within minutes, but the message was loud and clear. His brain had reached a breaking point. Niacin in high doses doesn't just lower cholesterol. It can disrupt heart rhythm, increase blood sugar in people with insulin resistance, and trigger spasms in the cerebral arteries. These effects may not show up on day 1 or even month 1, but over time, they chip away at brain health until a stroke or worse becomes inevitable. Richard is now off niacin, recovering steadily, and staying closely monitored. Thankfully, there was no lasting damage, but the moment stays with him. "I thought I was helping my heart," he told me quietly. "No one said it could hurt my brain." And that's what makes this message so important. Seniors across the country are taking these supplements in good faith, not knowing that some forms of niacin, especially flush-free or time-released versions, can cause real harm in aging bodies. If you're over 60 and using a supplement for heart support, pause. Check the label. Look for anything above 50 milligrams of niacin. Talk to your doctor before continuing. Because even with the best intentions, vitamins can go from helpful to harmful in ways you'd never suspect. Now that you've heard what to be cautious of, let's shift to a safer path. The right foods, eaten in the right way each morning, can do more for your brain than any pill ever could. Let's explore those next. 6. What to eat instead. Foods that fuel your brain without risking a stroke? After everything we've talked about the hidden dangers of high-dose vitamins, the pills that promise health but quietly raise stroke risk, it's only natural to wonder, what's left that's truly safe? What can you actually trust? The truth is, your body was never designed to run on capsules. It was built to thrive on real food. Food that's rich in nutrients, gentle on digestion, and naturally balanced to support your aging brain, heart, and blood vessels. Let me share the story of Miss Helen Carter, age 73, a retired art teacher from Nevada. She was bright, organized, always trying to do the right thing. When she first visited me, she laid out a plastic tray filled with supplements. A, multivitamin, B, complex for energy, vitamin D for bone support, vitamin E for circulation, niacin for her cholesterol, and several others she'd picked up after watching health segments on television. She looked at me and said, "I don't understand. I'm taking all the right things, but I feel worse. My balance is off, my blood pressure won't settle, and I wake up feeling foggy every day." So we took a different path. We cleared out the non-essential pills. We stripped her routine down to the basics, not with more medicine, but with meals. Her mornings began with one boiled egg for clean protein, half an avocado for potassium and healthy fats, a slice of whole grain toast, and a few fresh blueberries. Room temperature water instead of juice. No powders, no fortified cereals, no megadose vitamins, just food her body could recognize. Within 3 weeks, she stopped feeling dizzy in the mornings. Her blood pressure eased down to a healthier range. And most importantly, she began to feel clear again. The cloud in her mind lifted. She didn't change her lifestyle dramatically, she just changed how she fueled her brain. You see, your brain isn't something you can patch up with a capsule. It's alive. It responds to real nutrient hydration, healthy fats, natural antioxidants, and slow, steady energy from food. The kind you get from leafy greens like chard or kale, wild-caught salmon rich in omega-3s, seeds and nuts full of magnesium and vitamin E, and whole grains that keep your blood sugar stable. Helen told me something I'll never forget. She said, "I thought those pills were saving me, but once I stopped, I started feeling like myself again." End of. And that's the message so many people over 60 need to hear. You don't need more pills. You need more clarity, more simplicity, and a return to the foods your body was meant to live on. Because when you give your brain what it truly needs, it responds with focus, balance, and energy that no bottle can deliver. Now that you've heard the truth behind these 5 risky vitamins and the foods that support your brain instead, we're left with one final message. A wake-up call not about diet, but about awareness, because that may be the strongest medicine you still have. Awareness is the medicine that saves lives. If you're still here with me, it tells me something important. You're not just interested in health, you're invested in understanding it. And I want to say this from the heart. It's not the supplements you take that matter most. It's what you understand about them. That understanding can be the difference between protection and harm. I've worked in neurology for over 30 years. I've stood beside patients after strokes, held hands in moments of deep confusion, and spoken with families grappling with a loved one who could no longer remember their name. And more often than not, the turning point wasn't some dramatic event. It was a series of small choices made daily vitamins taken with the best of intentions, but without the right guidance. The vitamins we've talked about, D, E, B6A, and niacin, they're not bad. They're not your enemies, but they are powerful. And when your body crosses the threshold of 60, everything changes. Your kidneys, your liver, your arteries, they all become more delicate, more reactive. What your body once tolerated with ease can now tip the balance toward danger. Many seniors don't realize how differently supplements affect them with age. A dose that once gave you energy may now cause headaches. A vitamin you took for heart health may quietly raise your blood pressure or disturb your sleep. And that fatigue you feel in the afternoon, the lightheadedness when standing, it's not always just aging. Sometimes it's your brain asking for help. The truth is, most older adults take these pills because they want to stay strong for their partners, for their families, for themselves. They want to remember birthdays, keep driving, take walks, stay sharp. That desire, that purpose is beautiful, but the path to protecting it isn't lined with more pills. It starts with clarity. Check your labels. Read your dosages. Talk to your doctor. Don't be afraid to ask, Do I really need this? Pay attention to what your body is telling you. If something feels off after taking a supplement, don't brush it aside. Trust your instincts. This isn't about fear. It's about empowerment, about listening before it's too late. I've seen what happens when people don't, and I've also seen what's possible when they do. I've watched seniors reclaim their vitality not with more pills, but with more awareness. And often all it takes is one moment of insight to change the course of a future. So if this message resonated with you, I hope you'll share it with your spouse, your neighbor, your children. Because when it comes to brain health, to strokes, to memory loss, the best medicine is not found in a bottle. It's found in the choices you make each morning, beginning now. These messages are here to remind you you're not powerless. You have more strength, more influence over your health than you may realize. And if you've come this far, you already have the most important thing, your attention, your care, your willingness to do better. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a quiet moment and reflect. Share one thing you've learned and plan to act on. Let's continue learning together. And if you found this helpful, please leave a comment with a 1. If not, feel free to leave a 0. Your feedback helps us grow. Thank you for being here. And here's to living life with clarity, with strength, and on your own terms.